There's a part of your brain that doesn't think, it doesn't reason, it doesn't question, it reacts instantly, automatically. This part of your brain is ancient, millions of years old, and it still controls more of your life than you think. It's called the reptilian brain. But what if this primitive system, once meant to protect you, has been hijacked? Not by accident, not by evolution, but by design. Imagine this. A mechanism deep within you, wired for survival, can be triggered by sound, color, rhythm, and repetition. It bypasses your logic, overrides emotion, and locks you into fear, urgency, and submission. Every day, you're surrounded by cues designed to activate it. News headlines framed with danger alarms, sirens, flashing lights, rapid-fire content that never gives your cortex time to breathe. And as you're pulled into this reflexive loop, your higher mind, the part of you capable of discernment, imagination, and inner knowing, fades into the background. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you paused, not out of exhaustion, but by choice? When was the last time you noticed how the world makes you feel before it tells you what to think? You might be surprised by how many of your reactions aren't truly yours. You inherited them. And more than that, some were programmed. Drop a thought in the comments if this idea is already shaking something loose in you. Sometimes the most powerful realization begins in quiet recognition. Next time you feel triggered, pause. That moment of stillness, it's power reclaiming its place. This isn't just about the brain. It's about how a society can shape minds without ever needing consent. Keep watching, because what you're about to learn may explain why certain systems never wanted you to question anything at all. Picture a society that doesn't need to silence you, because it already taught you to silence yourself. The human brain evolved in layers. At its core is the reptilian brain, your oldest operating system. It governs instincts: fight, flight, freeze, hunger, reproduction, territory. It doesn't ask if a fear is logical, it just reacts. And this is precisely what makes it so exploitable. Long ago, ancient rulers realized something. If you control perception, you don't need to control the person. Modern institutions took this principle to heart. From media to education, advertising to architecture, everything is designed to keep your lower brain in the driver's seat. Have you ever wondered why breaking news is always urgent? Why the color red dominates alerts, sales, and signals? Why repetition is used not just in ads, but in political speeches, slogans, and even rituals? Because repetition isn't about clarity, it's about imprinting. And the reptilian brain loves what's familiar, no matter how harmful. This means people will often defend their own manipulation. They'll argue for systems that exploit them. They'll ridicule anyone who sees the pattern. Because to question the programming is to face a terrifying thought. What if most of what I believe isn't truly mine? This realization is unsettling, and that's exactly why it's so rare. Drop a comment if this feels uncomfortably familiar. You never know who else needed to hear that echoed back to them. When a person begins to observe their reactions, truly observe, they are no longer fully in the grip of the machine, and in that subtle shift, a new intelligence awakens, one that doesn't flinch, one that sees. Not everything we fear is an external threat. Sometimes the most dangerous virus is the story playing on repeat inside our heads. Stay tuned. Have you ever noticed how certain brands make you feel something before you even know why? A logo, a jingle, a color scheme. It's not logic. It's not taste. It's deeper than that. It's because marketing doesn't target the rational mind. It targets the reptilian one. This ancient part of your brain is obsessed with survival, so the best way to influence it is to speak its language. Scarcity, urgency, safety, status, belonging. That's why you see only 2 left in stock. This price ends in 1 hour. Everyone is buying this now. Don't miss out. It's not persuasion, It's neurological manipulation. And here's where it gets darker. These tactics aren't just used to sell products. They're used to sell ideologies, wars, leaders, enemies. Politicians know it. Media executives know it. Even tech platforms build algorithms to keep you in the very state where the reptilian brain thrives. Fearful, distracted, addicted, because a fearful mind seeks safety. And when a system offers that illusion of safety through control, division, and repetition, it becomes irresistible. You might be thinking, am I immune to this? But ask yourself, have I ever shared something online because it triggered me, without checking if it was even true? Have I ever argued with someone, not because I understood the issue, but because I felt attacked? Have I ever scrolled endlessly, feeling a vague sense of danger I couldn't name? That's not failure, that's conditioning. And the moment you see it, you can begin to break it. But here's the trick. The reptilian brain hates uncertainty. It craves the familiar, even when it's toxic. That's why the cycle repeats. That's why real change feels so uncomfortable. Drop your reflection in the comments. What part of this hits you the hardest? Sometimes naming the pattern is the first step to dissolving it. The systems built around us don't need to trap our bodies. They just need to trap our reactions. And once they have that, they have everything. Have you ever walked through a city and felt strangely anxious without knowing why? It's not just the noise. It's not just the speed. It's design. Cities today aren't built for humans. They're built for stimulation, and the kind of stimulation that speaks directly to the reptilian brain. Here's how it works. Crowded sidewalks, harsh lighting, horns, ads, sirens, clocks, security cameras. Each of these elements triggers a subtle alert in your nervous system, one ping after another, until the body settles into a permanent low-level state of vigilance. It's not enough to cause panic, but it's more than enough to keep you off center. The result? You become more reactive, less reflective. You move fast, but think shallow. You become programmable. Even architecture plays a role. Box-shaped rooms, harsh angles, fluorescent lighting. These aren't just aesthetic choices, they're psychological weapons. Natural geometry, the kind found in sacred sites, ancient temples, or untouched nature, has flow. It regulates the body. It soothes the limbic system. But modern environments, they activate the reptilian. Now imagine this amplified through devices, push notifications, vibrations, flashing icons, red dots. These aren't random. They're engineered triggers. You're not addicted to your phone. Your survival system is addicted to the signal. And here's the wild part. The more your reptilian brain is activated, the more predictable your behavior becomes. You're more likely to buy, to click, to fight, to conform. In other words, easier to control. And in a world where control is currency, predictability is gold. If any of this mirrors what you've been sensing but couldn't name, drop it in the comments. Your insight might be the breadcrumb someone else has been looking for. Because this isn't about fear, it's about awareness. And awareness is what the system fears most. Stay with this. What comes next will show just how deep this design goes, and how ancient minds predicted it long ago. In ancient times, control was physical. Chains, guards, walls. But those methods were expensive and visible. Then came a smarter method. Control the mind, and you control the body without ever touching it. This idea wasn't born in the modern era. It traces back to mystery schools, ancient priesthoods, and empires that knew the real throne wasn't gold. It was the nervous system. The Egyptians encoded this in their temples. The Babylonians used sound and symbol. The Romans mastered spectacle, colosseums, parades, violence as entertainment. Each culture learned the same thing. The reptilian brain responds to rhythm, repetition, and fear. Fast forward to today, and those same tools have been digitized. 24-hour news loops, flash-cut editing and films, algorithmic rage bait, social media outrage spirals. These aren't glitches, they're precision weapons. You might think you're choosing what to click, but often you're just responding to which part of your brain was targeted. And the more primal that part is, the more easily it's controlled. Consider how many institutions benefit from your reactive state. A fearful population buys more, an angry public votes more extremely, a divided society is easier to rule. And here's the twist. When people are locked in survival mode, they don't dream, they don't create, they don't rise. They stay loyal to whoever promises safety, no matter the cost. But what if you began noticing your reactivity? What if, in the middle of a headline or a heated scroll, you paused? That pause is a crack in the program, and through that crack, something far more powerful begins to emerge. Your original mind, the part of you that observes, that chooses, that remembers. If you've ever caught yourself in that moment, where you recognized the script and stepped out of it, drop a word in the comments. You're not alone. There's a reason they've tried so hard to keep you distracted, because the moment you reconnect to that awareness, you become untouchable. Why do so many of our fears feel ancestral? Fear of the dark, fear of being watched, fear of being cast out, unheard, unseen. These aren't just personal anxieties. They're collective, inherited, encoded in the nervous system over thousands of years. The reptilian brain remembers. It doesn't store facts or narratives. It stores patterns of threat, etched by survival. And through culture, these patterns are passed down not just through stories, but through silence. Entire generations raised in fear of punishment, exclusion, shame, never questioning why certain emotions feel like danger. But here's the secret. Institutions have long known that unhealed collective trauma is the perfect control lever, because a person who still fears their own power will always obey. That's why mass control rarely looks like domination anymore. It looks like routine, policy, politeness, convenience. You don't need armed guards when people self-censor. You don't need to burn books when algorithms decide what rises. And most people don't even realize their reactions aren't based on the present moment. They're echoes, ancient fears, triggered by modern cues. You see a mask, you feel threat. You see a symbol, you feel rage. You hear a tone, you feel shame. Not because the stimulus is new, but because the reptilian brain doesn't know time. It knows activation. And unless we bring conscious attention to these cycles, we'll keep reenacting them, on loop. But there's power in noticing. When you catch a reaction forming, pause. Don't fight it. Don't shame it. Just observe. That simple awareness interrupts the pattern. And in that interruption, something radical happens. Choice returns. And from choice, freedom begins. If any of this echoes something you've always felt but couldn't explain, share your thoughts below. You never know who else is quietly waking up alongside you. Imagine this, a system so advanced, it doesn't need to imprison you, because it already knows exactly what you'll do next. Not through magic, through math. Every scroll, click, pause, and swipe feeds it. Algorithms aren't neutral, they're pattern hungry. And the patterns they love most? The ones generated by your reptilian brain. Fear gets more engagement than peace. Outrage spreads faster than understanding. Certainty, no matter how false, hooks more eyes than complexity. So platforms evolve not to inform, but to provoke. Not to elevate minds, but to stimulate reactions. And guess which part of your brain reacts first? That ancient part. The one that doesn't ask, is this true? It only asks, am I safe? But here's the danger. When artificial intelligence learns how to feed this brain more efficiently than any human system ever could, you're not just reacting to content, you're being shaped by it. Shaped by a digital mirror that reflects your instincts, not your awareness. You become more predictable, more programmable, more manageable. Some call it personalization. But what if it's really behavioral confinement? We like to believe we're choosing our thoughts. But most people are only choosing from menus written by code trained to exploit your oldest neural system. What's the antidote? Conscious interruption. noticing when you're being pulled into a spiral, feeling when your pulse spikes at a headline, choosing to scroll past the bait instead of biting. This is subtle work, and that's why it's powerful. If you've ever noticed an algorithm steering your emotions, share what made you pause. You might be helping someone else become the observer instead of the subject. In a world where digital environments are sculpted to hijack your instincts, awareness isn't just resistance, it's rebellion. There's a reason ancient mystics, philosophers, and sages all said the same thing: know thyself. Not in the surface sense, your likes, your hobbies, your style, but the layers beneath, the impulses, the inherited instincts, the fears you never chose. Because when you begin to notice those layers, something miraculous happens. You stop reacting, and you start responding. The reptilian brain isn't evil. It kept your ancestors alive. It's part of your design. But it was never meant to rule. Its role is survival, but your purpose is far more than survival. You are here to expand, create, observe, evolve. And in a world engineered to keep you reactive, your calm attention is revolutionary. Start small. Next time you feel triggered, pause, breathe, ask, who benefits from my reaction? That question alone begins to dismantle the machinery. You don't have to escape the system. You just have to stop feeding it your unconscious energy. The more you choose presence over programming, the less power those triggers hold. And here's the final twist. When you begin reclaiming your awareness, you begin reclaiming your future. Because every time you break the loop, every time you don't click the bait, don't echo the outrage, don't lash out blindly, you become something the system can't predict. And what it can't predict, it can't control. If this journey sparked something in you, something wordless, deep, and ancient, don't let it fade. Drop your thoughts below. Let them ripple. And if this message helped you see even one thread more clearly, share it forward. There's more of us than they want you to believe. The awakening doesn't begin with fireworks. It begins in silence, in seeing, in remembering. And now you remember. Subscribe if you're ready for what comes next, because this was only the beginning.